Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special little Wano video here today. As I am joined by the lovely SuperXavi from Eugen's team, and we are talking about the artillery rework that we just got in the last patch, and gonna go in about what is behind all of this. But before all of that, SuperXavi, welcome to the interview, and tell us a bit about yourself and what your expertise behind all of this is.
Hello everyone. Thanks Protos for letting me in this video. I'm 27 years old and I've been at Eugen for little over 2 years now. At the beginning, I did not come from the video game industries, but my passion for Eugen games and my experience playing them helped me get into the company. I'm currently a QA tester, and for some time now, I've also been handling part of the communication work, like devlog, videos, Discord, and more. That is also why I'm here today. And voila.
And yeah, so you said you are a Eugen fan. What were your first touching points with RTS and Eugen in general?
Yes, I say the first RTS game I've played is Ruse. It's my favorite games. Long before I joining Eugen, but I also play many others like Total War, Company of Heroes, Star Wars, Empire at War, and many more.
So yeah, that also can be seen on this channel already. You beating me in Ruse. It was I tried to give you a
Yes.
good fight, but I had no chance against a real pro there. And yeah, talking about being a pro, you also joined the last two seasons of SDL, and those didn't go too poorly either, right?
Yes, I really love the game, Warno, so I think it will be fun to try a tournament. I wanted to do better than last year in season 5. I was not quite make it to the final stage. I did not think I could go that far, but I really enjoy it, and I can't wait for the next season.
That I think it gets us a good indication on yeah, what your role is and what your expertise is in regarding to Wano and Eugen games in general. So let's get to the real part here, why everybody is here for, and that is the big artillery work, which was a long time waiting and now is finally here and has a lot of questions brought up in the community. So we gonna try to tackle it from the start. And the first question here would be, why was that rework necessary in the eyes of Eugen, and why did you guys go into that whole rework?
Yes, of course. At the start, we decide to rework artillery after making several observations across all game mode. In 1v1, only a few artillery pieces were really useful, and they end up dominating the game, especially 155 and 203. In 10v10, some player could spend almost the entire game using artillery without really being counter. And in team games, from 2v2 to 4v4, it was a mix of both situations with the same issue coming back again and again. The main problem was that artillery could often be used without much risk. You did not really have to worry about it being destroyed, and counter battery was not really based on skill. Most of the time, it was more about having the right units. In many cases, wherever it was towed or self-propelled, artillery was basically untouchable. We also had problem with napalm artillery being too effective in 10v10, and at the same time, some artillery units were almost never worth using. So we all of that together, we decided to start this rework The idea was to add more depth to artillery gameplay, add more complexity, make every caliber useful for a specific role, and give player more interesting choice when building their deck.
Okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable, and I think a lot of people can agree that, especially in 10v10, artillery felt oppressive rather than 1v1, as you pointed out. Like, yeah, 2 or 3 millimeters were just really, really dominant. So that all makes good sense. And what were the ideas behind the changes that you now came up with? Like, how did you get to the ones that we now got with the setup timer and so on?
Yes, the goal was to keep the foundation of the current artillery system, like M time, reload time, all the stat we make, while fixing the main issue: how do we make artillery counterable? That is where setup time and backup time came in.
Okay, so it was basically a double package, like trajectory and setup time, and like the trajectory changes, I guess, are the less talked about one, but maybe the more impactful one. And how did you get to that part?
As we announced before, we were not happy with the mortar trajectories, and improving them was one of our goal. But once we start working on it, we quickly realized that the old trajectory systems needed much bigger work. So in the end, we had to rebuild all artillery trajectories. That is one of the reason the work took so long, because it also had side effect. Some of the recent change and problems with aircraft are linked to that. Science or systems are connected.
So, like the bomb trajectory and the artillery trajectory and so on all had to rework, and that's like also one of the reasons why the bomber drops and so on were a bit scuffed for one of the patches just before artillery rework, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And so then the big controversial part, the setup and backup time, which how did you guys come up with that? What was the idea behind that part?
At the beginning, we had a lot of ideas and a lot of meetings to find a solution that made sense for us. What we want was to keep the foundation of our artillery work, like I said before. So we start looking for a way to solve the big problem. How do we make artillery counterable? The answer came quite naturally: setup and backup time. We will come back to that because it changed recently. But the main question was, why did we want the same delay for everyone? This is where we choose gameplay over realism, as we have already done on other aspects of the game. We did not want to punish towed artillery too much because it is already fragile. And at the same time, we also needed to limit self-propelled artillery because that was also a problem. If we had gone fully realistic, self-propelled artillery would have been almost untouchable, and that was not our goal. For us, every unit type should have a counter, and artillery did not really have one.
That makes sense, and I guess you already touched on this a bit in the latest patch, so that is nice to see as well. The quick reaction time on your part there. The one big question also was like this was announced a long time ago, and there was always questions in the Steam
Yes.
forums and so on about why did it take so long. Can you give us a bit of intel why it took a year since the first announcement till the release, basically?
Yes, no problem. As I said before, trajectory were the main reason. It was not plain on at the start to rebuild that part of the code, and that changed the dev schedule a lot. We had to wait for the new trajectory before making our final tuning, so that slow everything down. Then the setup and backup system was also harder than expected. At first, it was supposed to be handled by Trey, like many in the game, but once it was implemented, a lot of problem appears. So the developers had to move that systems it into hard code. It now let us modify trajectories, setup, and backup time more easily. Of course, testing also took time. Before the strike team started testing, we had to polish many things and make a lot of adjustment with our QA team.
So yeah, that explains, I guess, the long waiting time, especially the coding part. That yeah, as I said, the trajectory part a bit overlooked by the community. So yeah, I didn't have it really on my display at the beginning as well, but especially for mortars, it makes such a difference. So it's a really nice change. Like the mortar system before really was not that pleasant. So I think that's one of the best changes in that rework. And yeah, one of the other couple of hints were there that there might be more to this. Is the Arty rework finished in your eyes now, or are we actually getting more in? Like, do you plan to do more around artillery in the future?
No, it's not finished yet. The goal is to improve the experience for everyone, no matter the game mode, from 10v10 to 1v1. So we are watching it very closely. We read as much player feedback as possible, and we try to adjust based on what we see. Of course, some things can only be confirmed in real situation. So yes, it will keep evolving and we will keep improving it to offer the best rework possible. We already released a patch with the first change. Um, I also want to say that it's a complicated topic. You cannot really judge it by spawning two artillery units in dev mode or by playing only 2 or 3 games. Since the change went live, player are still adapting. Some people spam artillery to test it, while others avoid playing them. And on another topic, a lot of people ask the same question: why the 25 seconds? In our test, even with 25 seconds, you can still avoid counter battery. But the problem is that some units are too effective at counter battery, and that is what we are trying to fix. I do not want to read the whole patch note, but the change we made are the one that seems the most appropriate based on what we saw and on player feedback. So yes, now we want to differentiate setup and backup time depending on the type of the artillery. And we also want to correct problematic unit like MLRS cluster, M30 and other. So counter battery is not too easy with some specific units. So yes, it's not finished. We will keep making change and making sure the rework stay in a good place. This could also lead to price pass later on, for example. And I know the strike team will help us refine everything as much as possible.
So yeah, it makes sense that you will tinker on all of this. One part of the preview was about Arty leaders and salvo control as well, though. Like, will we get those as well, or what is the work on those currently looking like?
Yes, about the other thing we had announced, like you said, artillery leaders and improvement to Salvo. For artillery leaders, we did not want to release them too early because we did not want to give them a bonus that was too strong or not useful enough. So for now, they are on standby. Once the rework is finished for us, we may be able to add them with the right bonus for not break the balancing of the rework. For Salvo, we do want to improve them, but that will take time as we announced before. It was not planned for right away after the rework.
Okay, so yeah, they're still being tinkered on. And it's always you always make hints on what is part of it. It's always quite hard to fully grasp from the devlog. So it's nice to see that you still have plans there, and yeah, we hope that those will be nice improvements to the artillery gameplay in the future as well. So yeah, in general, I for myself enjoy the artillery work quite a bit. It obviously has a lot of room for improvement. I guess you guys agree on that part as well. But it made the game, especially in 1v1, a lot more interesting than just the 203 millimeter spam that we had for a long while. And I hope the 10v10 players can agree that it made a lot more fun as well. Yeah, for the end of the video, we have a couple of FAQ questions from the community collected. So I would go through them as well. By the way, guys, if you have future questions for these types of videos, if you want to do a couple more of these in the future, leave them down below in the comments. And yeah, let's get into the FAQ part here. And the first and most important question in my eyes is, will we see the Division 4 champion return to Season 7 of the Wano League to clean house in Division 3?
Yes, absolutely. I will take part, even if I think it will be harder this time.
Nice. Good to hear that. Yeah, more information about season 7 coming up, by the way, over the next couple of days as well, guys. So keep your eyes peeled for that as well. Yeah, another question that we saw a lot, which you already, I guess, kind of answered with your first small patch that you brought out, is, are there any plans to tweak setup and pack up speed depending on caliber, or is it an engine limitation?
Yes. So no, it's not engine limitation, but for now we do not want to do it by caliber. We prefer do it by artillery type, like I said before.
So yeah, MLRS, self-propelled, and so on, and not just by pure caliber standards.
Yes,
Okay.
exact.
Okay. Yeah, also something that was asked a lot was, some of the older divisions lack the same diversity as of the new ones did, and especially in the artillery tab as well, which yeah, some are really neglected there. Will older artillery tabs be revisited, and will they
I
get maybe some extra changes?
I cannot say too much about that, but as always, we try to do our best. We try to add new things and improve older division whenever we get the chance.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. I really love this TKS changes, for example, that you did a couple of patches ago. So I hope a couple of the older divisions with weaker artillery will get some love there. We'll push for it in Strike Team, I guess, and we'll see
Yes,
what is
exactly.
possible there. Another part there with the new changes is the counter battery radar, which is not directly part of the rework, but a rather new unit added, which is nicely built in there. Are there any plans on making the systems more appealing and more interesting, than the current, set of stats and traits that they have? Well, like, are there any
For now, no. We know it's not useful for every player, but the goal is to help those who want to see what is happening in the enemy camp and in more detail.
that makes sense? And then, one of the questions, and that was something that has been, tossed around since the beginning of Wano Alpha. With the setup time now for artillery being a thing, could we maybe see something similar for radar AA, like a setup timer between turning on and turning off a radar? Would that be maybe possible?
Yes, that will be possible, but let us finish the artillery work first. Then we can think about that kind of change if it answer a real need.
I think for sure some changes there would be nice, because seat plane gameplay currently is not as perfect as maybe could be, but yeah, maybe we can also tweak it in another way. Another thing that has been talked about a lot is the hearing issue. You already addressed that in the past, with changing it so that you cannot hear every unit behind enemy lines, and there is a radius. The question that comes off is, can we maybe make it so that the hearing range is not picking up unseen units, or is maybe even at least reduced more so? Is that a possibility?
We already made a big improvement to reduce how far unseen units can be heard, but we cannot tune it exactly the way we would like yet. So we need to study another solution and try to find the best one.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah, in my eyes, it already is a lot improved over the days in the past, but yeah, there is still ways that it can be maybe abused is the right word there. Hopefully, you guys can improve on that a bit in the future as well. And then the last question is once more going back to the artillery work. Like, what would count as a success, and like what data points and metrics are you looking at for the rework to see if it is successful? And yeah, like what would you say would be a good outcome and maybe a bad outcome in that regard?
Yes. That's a difficult things to measure directly, but we are closely monitoring how the games play out and listening to feedbacks from all sides of the community. We try to adjust and improve the artillery rework based on what we see in match and on the player feedback share with us. And we are very mindful of the player who do not enjoy this change. We really do not want to disappoint them.
Okay, yeah, this is it for the Q and FAQ part, guys. We know there were a lot of other questions, not all of them fitting for this video specifically, though. And we plan to do more videos like this in the future to maybe put them in there if they are more fitting for those topics that we're going to talk about in the future. Also, as I said, feel free to leave questions down below, and we will see if we maybe can answer them directly or in future videos as well. And if you have any feedback for this format as well, leave them down below. Thanks to all of you for watching, and especially thanks to you for joining us here today, Xavi. And it's always great to hear from you guys over at Eugen directly and see the direct part behind all the great work that you do with your RTS games.
Thank you, Protos, for this video. I hope we manage to answer as many player questions as possible. And I'm looking forward to joining you again in a future video.
So, yeah, thanks once again for joining. See you all guys in the next video, and have a good day or good night wherever you are. Bye bye.